Alrighty, good morning, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 15th of 2025. Let's go ahead and take a look at what happened here yesterday. I'm trying to remember what we were talking about in the pre-market. I think what we were talking about was expecting the market to retest the weekly low. That was what we were just given the signal that we got from the weekly low, which was Monday's low. There were some clues that we were going to come back there, retest that area, maybe come into 5,800 or 5,796, somewhere around 5,790 to 5,800, retest that area, and then maybe get a bigger bounce. But the bigger bounce ended up happening without that happening, right? So that was kind of what we were expecting, maybe a retest of the weekly low, and then a bounce from there. So we kind of nailed the pullback out of the open, right? So here's where the market opened, and we got a pretty good sell-off. But then once we got down right to 50% of the previous day, we got all the support and then bounced out again, right? So never really broke 50% of the previous day, a bullish clue. And what we said, we needed to get down below there for more faith in the bearish side. So again, kind of nailing the rotations and everything throughout the day. Let's look at some of the notable rotations in here. So out of the open, the first short opportunity, in my opinion, was right off of the back end of the first roadmap level in the FMA here as we were selling off. Could have probably actually tried the first tag of that 200, but kind of aggressive over in here. Just kind of seeing the little tiny divergence and kind of running for the fences there, or swinging for the fences. But this right here, great opportunity. You didn't get a huge trade out of it, but you should have been able to get 5 points. And then we came up through. And then here, beautiful opportunity to short the first roadmap level with a bearish divergence, giving you profit down to the first expected support, where, in my opinion, this was a great buy opportunity with a big bullish divergence testing the first time off the 200 and the holy orange power level. And from there, should have gave yourself another nice 10-point bounce to the upside, or just under 10 points, hopefully taking profit right at that next roadmap level for 7 points. So good opportunity there. Then it started to drop out, and I got a decent trade here on this. Basically, you can see a nice, similar to this formation earlier in the morning, and yes, technically a bit aggressive, this short opportunity here when we got the double top, basically off the 200 and the hopeful here in what looked to be the beginning of a meltdown. Again, a little aggressive, but I got in. I knew my risk was pretty tight, and then it continued to sell off, and there were some good short opportunities on the way down here. And then here's where I got in the second time, and actually was just picture perfect, because we're starting to sell off, starting to look really bearish here with our moving averages holding below the first roadmap area, coming down into that next major roadmap level and getting a double top with a bearish divergence. So I didn't get filled at the high or at the roadmap level. I got filled 2 ticks below, and then I was able to get a really nice trade down. Now, I did not get the huge runner that I was holding for a much deeper level, but was able to get a pretty awesome trade off there. And then we came back up right to the same area, and I figured I would hit it again with this bearish divergence off the level, off the back end of that first test. I guess at this time, the second test of the 200. Really good looking bearish divergence there. Unfortunately, got stopped out, went right through. And then the counter play, the bullish play off the FMA would have been the better play there. Did not get in. And then it just started rallying back up. So I was able to make some decent money in the morning. When I got stopped out here, I just walked away, and then, to be honest, I didn't really trade the rest of the day. But there's some good stuff over in here. I think I made money in 2 accounts, and then this third account, I went and put it on and lost. So I just walked away. You can see all through in here, beautiful hold off the counter trade, comes up, and then we start to fail again. Not the most sexy price action in here, but again, bearish divergence off the back end of the hopeful there for the pullback, holding the previous daily close with a bullish divergence. And then here we begin with the continuation of the downside. So we got a new low for the day, and then they came up right to the back end of the 200 there with a big bearish divergence. So that would have been a great short opportunity if you recognize that we're printing new lows for the day, coming back up into the 200, and then there you have it. Beautiful. Again, this is a trade with 1 or 2 ticks of risk, and you should have been able to make, let's say, 20 points, over 20 points to the downside in a matter of 10 minutes. So pretty awesome. You could see how aggressive it was. There wasn't even a big enough bounce to even come to the fast moving average. So it comes all the way down, kind of bounces what I would call in the middle of nowhere, although there looks like there is a lot of demand in the market right around that area from the previous day. Bounces out. Unfortunately, on this bounce, we come into the 200. We get a nice bearish divergence. It even tags the back end of our roadmap level to the tick. And it was a great trade opportunity, but did not really get much more than about 5 points. And then it came back. So there was a good 5-point short, but then it came right back. And then you even had maybe, again, I don't know if I rely too much on these little patterns, but you do kind of have your shoulder, your head, and your shoulder on this very short time frame. And then we get the continuation down for whatever that's worth. And again, this right here, another perfect opportunity when you recognize the weakness and we start to break the lows, and then we even come down and retest that overnight low and come back to that FMA. There's a bearish divergence. You could be in for the next 10, 20, 30 point pop lower, or I shouldn't say pop, I should say failure lower. And what do you know? They come right to the next roadmap level where it peters out for 3 tests almost to the tick, holding that area. Again, there's a reason the market came right here, sold off, and then petered out, and the bulls started to try and defend that area. There's something going on right there by 58.53. So they come down. There's 50% of the previous day, which I told you we need to see the bears get below to have faith that they're going to try and come back and retest that low I mentioned at the beginning of the broadcast here. But they didn't. So that should have been a clue to you guys. If you were heavy on the bearish side all morning, which I was kind of more towards the open here, then once you saw this happen and saw the peak below and bounce right off the level we want to see the bears hold below, should have been a clue that maybe we weren't going to get the retest of the previous daily low or the previous weekly or the current weekly low, especially once we got back through the 200, popped back up through the last major swing high on the short time frames. And to be honest with you, if you were really heavy on the short side here, you did have a good short opportunity down here. This was a great long, by the way. Big bullish divergence here. Should have been able to take profit off each roadmap level here, capturing basically the high of the move before it came back. And then you got this nice bullish divergence on that final low of the day. So you can see that peak to a lower low, higher low on the RVI, and then the break above the 200 here was your sign to maybe start thinking like a bull, right? And there's the first tag of the 200, bullish divergence. You could have jumped in. This is actually a really, really great trade. When you're coming into a major level of support, you break the previous swing high on these shorter time frames. This is probably like you could see it on the 3-minute. You get through that high and you pull back into your moving average or maybe a key level. Bullish divergence, jump in. You're typically getting in at the beginning of the change in trend. Now, sometimes you're going to break a high, and then they're just going to bring it back down and fake you out. But this is a very, very good trade. If you don't want to sit here and try and pick the ultimate low of a move or the ultimate high, is seeing the change in trend, seeing the orientation of your moving averages change, and then seeing that retracement right into the 200 with divergence. And then you know there's a pretty good chance you're going to print a higher high compared to that previous swing, or I guess compared to the previous new high, and then potentially catch the change in rotation in the market, right? So great long opportunity off the 200. And then on the way up here was a very, very strong push, as you can see. Again, another nice move in the market, holding the fast moving average the whole way up, right? Almost every pullback came right to it, to the tick. Once, twice, 3 times. This one actually pulled back right to the roadmap. And then 4th time there, coming up, only to fail, my friends, right off the next major structure zone in the market. That's why we have a level there. There's a reason the market came all the way up, right to 58.98 to the damn tick, tested it 4 times here on these shorter time frames, and then got the big pullback here, right? And there's a reason they bounced back and forth between these two levels. There's something in the market between these two areas here. Whatever it is, if you want to talk to the guys that study volume and order flow and all that, I don't even really care. I just know that this is the top end and the bottom end of a major chop block in the market. So I know there's an edge to those sides. Now, just because that is true doesn't mean every time they test our levels, are they going to rotate perfectly? But that is where they will most typically rotate around all these areas, right? So we come up and there's short and long opportunities for about, what, a half hour to an hour here, right off our levels. I was watching this actually, just kind of going, what the hell, right? Just bam, 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 bam. And then finally, we then get the breakdown. And you probably should have seen on higher time frames all the potential bearishness as we were testing up in here. And there's even that beautiful peak in. Let's zoom in here for a second. Beautiful peak up into the roadmap level. Bearish divergence, never came back, right? And there's a pop right off the 200, bullish divergence. And then we have some divergence here on this first test. So some good short and long opportunities within that, the confinements of those two areas. And then we get the next major pullback. And if you look, it was really whippy here yesterday after that first morning sell-off. So we pop all the way up off the 50% level, fail off our roadmap level, come back, find support for all intents and purposes at that next roadmap level, kind of again, starting the stair step up these levels again. And you can see here at the end of the day, we hold from here, not clean, but on that final test, this is so textbook of when they disrespect a level often. I mean, you can see here they didn't do it, but a lot of times they'll kind of disrespect the level. It'll get a little messy, and then they'll pop out, come right to it, and then that begins the breakout to the opposing side. So great opportunities again, all in here. If you didn't get long here, there was a good short opportunity from the 200. There was a good short opportunity from right here, the next roadmap level. There was a good long opportunity off the 200. Right? There was anything else notable in here? No, we just pop out, get a bullish divergence as we're printing a new high right into the FMA, right? And then they pop out, and at the end of the day here, right to VWAP for the pullback. They hold this level on the pullbacks, right? VWAP up through. Notice all the trouble the bulls had when they got right to that major 50% area again, or is that the high the day before maybe? Lots of trouble, pulls back, and then we get that pop at the end of the day to get back above the next roadmap level, only to pull back and then start holding above it there, right? And then that was it. Pop through and closed. Now, going through the overnight session here, we had a great short opportunity off the FMA last night. We had a potential bullish. In fact, I took this long here last night from quite literally 58.83. I basically nailed the low because this is what I saw at the time last night. Now, being short, I told myself being short was really what I wanted to be into this area, but I thought it was a good shot. Again, very limited risk to try and see if we would bounce nearly to the tick off this area and come up into the VWAP where I could take most of my profit off. And it chugged right through, right? So I got stopped out there, but I had tightened my risk up so that I basically paid commission, and that was it on the trade. But what I was seeing here, and you can see it on the 3-minute better because the 512 at night is not going to print like it does during the day. But I saw it kept coming up right to that previous swing. And that's when I just tightened my risk up. And I said, if it comes back, even if it's just a couple ticks below and it bounces, I don't want to be in this trade, especially because it's nearly time for bed. And I didn't want to be thinking about it. And sure enough, it came right on through. And then eventually got to the VWAP where I wanted to take my profit. So that's how that crumbled there. And let's take a look here now. We had the big news drop. What was it? It's eluding me right now. CPI, I believe. And actually, let's bring it back to before CPI. So they come down, they hold 50% of the previous day with bullish divergence, which then leads this current pop we're currently in. Notice that a little bit earlier this morning, they could not get through the 200 and then broke out through the overnight high here and then held on the pullback to the close to break out. And then we even got this nice little play right off the FMA and the level. And now the news drop led to this gigantic pop, which started to negate any of the expectations I had for this morning of us continuing to try and sell off down to 5,800 because the news came in and we popped right back through 50% of the previous week. And now here we are up above 50% of last week. Now starting to look like all the bearish stuff could be getting negated. Of course, we could be just making a new high to a lower high and a series of lower highs to break back down to 5,800. But we're back up above 50% of last week, which is a good first clue for the bullish side. So in the last couple minutes, you can see got up through 50%, pulled back to it, bounced out, and got rejection right around 77, 78 here, which is again another structure zone in the market, right? And now here we are coming into the open, 10 minutes from the open, pulling back into the 200 and the level that we bounced off of, which again, this isn't an official roadmap level here. This is a level that I put on here because I noticed that on the shorter time frames, there was something going on there. So it's not surprising that they pulled back right to it and bounced, right? And so here we sit testing the 200 at the moment with a nice bounce off the 200. Might get right up into the FMA here. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames. I do have a couple longs from the 200 there. I just got filled on my first 2-pointer. I've got 2 points, 4 points, 5 points, 10 points, 15 points if it breaks out. If it doesn't, then I will go ahead and get a break-even stop. So I've got a couple different, of course I didn't get filled on one of my other live accounts here, missed it, but the other 3 I am filled in, already in the profit. We'll see what happens here. So let's go up to the higher time frames now, and my friends, that's as easy as it gets. Take your long, take your first profit off, and then if it does come back, I'm willing to just take a stop out. But if it starts to break out from here, this could be the beginning of a nice 5-10 point trade, right? So in this case, it's not. So I just walked away with a little bit of profit and move on to the next trade. Let's go ahead and jump up to the higher time frames now, and this may very well continue to follow through for all we know. Let's go to the higher time frame.